I don't know what my problem is, but I've just been in this negative mood. Um, Today especially, but the last couple of days I've felt it creep up. So I'm going to be doing an episode on kind of happy thought habits, why negativity creeps in, why we feel worse when we have negative thoughts, and how we can get the hell out. I'm sure I'm not alone in this, and that a lot of folks experience just feeling like crap, and a lot of times it can stem from just the way we think and the way we talk to ourselves. So for me, I typically like to do gratitude practices, but I just kind of fell off the wagon. And, like anything else that's good for you, you do it for a while, you feel better, and then you forget to do it, or you just don't, and because you're like, I don't need it anymore. And then sure enough, wham, hit you right back in the face, and you're like, shit, that's why I needed to do the thing in the first place. So let's look up some things on negative thoughts, positive thoughts, and we're going to go from there. So let's ask our good old buddy Gemini on negative thinking, just kind of talking about my experience, and let's see what it says. So I typically like to do gratitude practices, but I kind of fell off the wagon, and I've noticed that in the last couple days, without doing my positive affirmations or gratitude for probably almost about a week, but the symptoms or effects have been more noticeable in the last few days of just kind of being more negative and just having a more negative state because of it. I'm not as excited about things I'm normally excited about, and just a more overall dampened disposition. Is that because of these lack of practices? And can you speak on this? Even the way I said that, I hated that. Like, I'm just like, you idiot. God. Um, Stopping a gratitude routine often triggers a positivity fade because these practices act like resistance training for your brain's prefrontal cortex, which regulates emotional response. So there you have it. It's like you do something good for yourself. It's like, working out or whatever, and you quit doing it, and then it can fade away, and then you feel out of shape. But for your brain, feeling out of shape or not doing your training results into a more negative mood. And because I've done these kinds of practices for a long time, you're much more easy to know the difference of not feeling that good. So in the sense of like, if you ate really healthy all the time, and then you ate fast food for 2 or 3 days in a row, like you feel like shit because you notice there's a stark difference in how you feel. But at the time when you were only eating healthy, you don't really necessarily know that it feels good because you had nothing to compare it to, is my point. So now that I have the comparison of feeling like a dirtbag, I'm like, oh, that's why I'm not doing my gratitude and positivity practices like I normally do. The rewiring effect. Regular gratitude practices strengthens the neural pathways associated with dopamine and serotonin production. So when you stop, your brain reverts to its default mode network. Can't get away from this, which is evolutionary bias towards scanning for threats and the negatives. So there you have it. Stop doing my training has gotten me back to my kind of survival brain, which in modern life, with all the things we have going on and things we have to do, we think about the negative, and then after a while, you just start thinking that way, and then your whole world becomes that negative way. The gains period. Research from the UC Davis suggests that while the benefits of gratitude can take weeks to peak, the physiological lift begins to degrade within 7 to 10 days of inactivity as the brain's cortisol regulation returns to its baseline. So there you have it. Yeah, I mean, it says within 7 to 10 days you start to degrade, and that's about right. Like I haven't done it in about a week or two, and I'm starting to feel the effects. So if you're someone, let's say for instance, who doesn't practice gratitude, this is a good time to start. And we're going to do it in this episode, and then over time you can build up your baseline. So if you're starting from negative, maybe you have the reverse effect where you'll notice feeling better after some time. You're like, damn, I do feel better, in the same way, fuck, I feel worse because I'm not doing it anymore. So today we can both start to feel better because we're about to do some gratitude practices here in a second after this. We finish reading this bit. So it isn't just about feeling good. Gratitude specifically inhibits the frustration response in the amygdala. I didn't know that. So I knew the amygdala is a primary driver of anxiety and fear, but I did not know that it was responsible for frustration. And for whatever reason, I've just been getting angry, like just kind of like irritated with shit that like I know shouldn't bother me. Like, why am I getting mad at the dude on my team at work when he's saying his opinion? And I'm just like, you idiot. Look, you're so stupid wearing glasses. And you just, you just go down this rabbit hole of hell and you do it, but then it really just makes you feel worse. Even if you're talking shit about someone else, even if you don't really mean it and your brain's just doing it, it doesn't feel good. It's like you do it, but then it's afterwards you're like, yeah. At least that's how I feel. So meaning that without practice, you aren't just less happy, you're physically more prone to irritation and minor stressors. Yep. And the more you're physically, like the more you're irritated or more prone to irritation and minor stressors, the more suffering you experience in your life. The point is, you bring about it yourself. You pretty much are just slapping yourself in the face more and more with all of your negative thinking that could easily be avoided. Interestingly, studies show that falling off the wagon is actually part of the process. Occasional lapses don't erase the long-term structural changes in the brain, thank God, but they do cause the immediate emotional dampening you're feeling as the neurochemical spike tapers off. So it's like you feel the dampening. I think that's what I'm kind of going through right now. So thank goodness it's not, jacking me up long term, but I got to keep up with it or otherwise it will. And it's not jacking you up. Let's be clear. It's just the work that has been done, the resistance training, so to speak, of gratitude is just that. It's a training. And so you kind of have to keep up with it to continue to feel those benefits of kind of long-term contentment. No one's jacked up. You're not a bad person if you don't practice gratitude. You're not damaged. It's just a thing that can help. And so that's what we are going to do right the hell now. So can you please give us some different categories of things to be grateful for that I can explore? For example, you can say the body and then give different parts of the body that we can talk about. Maybe appliances in our house, modern day conveniences that we take for granted, and anything else that we take for granted that is so good or we would be upset with or feeling the effects if we did not have that thing. I'm telling you, man, gratitude is a key, a major key for contentment. So here we go. So now we're going to do the gratitude practice. All right, so let's go. From biology to infrastructure, shifting gratitude from abstract concepts like, just being happy to tangible categories help bypass gratitude fatigue by engaging the brain's sensory processing centers rather than just its executive functions. That's a fancy way for saying that. So gratitude fatigue is basically when you do these kind of practices, you can get numb to it. You can kind of just go through the motions of practicing gratitude. And you're like, yeah, I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for food. And then it just becomes a mechanical activity and it's not stimulating. In the same way that you love the show Friends. And there's a certain episode that cracks you up and it makes you all warm and fuzzy. But if you kept watching it every single day, you're going to get bored with it. It's going to be numb. It's not going to feel nearly as good. Same thing with gratitude. So you have to constantly be switching up what you're being grateful for to still get that sustained effect. The brain and the body operate under something called like habituation. The more you do anything, the more it gets used to it. If you put your hand in cold water, at first it's, that's chilly. But then 30 seconds go by and you start to get used to it. You get the point. Same thing with gratitude. That's gratitude fatigue. So, all right, here we go. Focus on the systems that function without your permission. Your autonomic nervous system. Autonomic. Nervous system, breathing while you sleep, liver and kidneys, constant filtration, and white blood cells. Wait a minute, can you give me just more details? Hold on. Hold on. Can you give more details in a list format explaining each piece and why it's great? Yeah, because sometimes if you need help with gratitude, you can, you know, you got to help it along. Sometimes it's hard to come up with this stuff on your own. So, like, if I was in my zone, my gratitude zone, I could just roll with this and be like, oh my God, the liver. But then at the same time, I don't know these systems super well. So, like, I'm not going to be able to spit off facts about white blood cells and shit. So, here we go. Oh, now we're to the refrigerator. Anyway, all right, we'll start here. The damn refrigerator. Yeah. Okay. So for 99% of human history, some of these things were impossible luxuries or grueling manual tasks that occupied every waking hour. So the refrigerator. I mean, we got two of them. No, we got three. Shit. No, two fridges and a freezer. Beyond just keeping milk cold, this is a biological shield that prevents foodborne pathogens like botulism and salmonella before its widespread use in the 1930s. This has only been around for not even 100 years. Let's say 1930, the year is 2026. That's what? 94 years? 96 years. Seasonal eating was often a polite term for vitamin deficiencies in winter malnutrition. Wow. Because you couldn't eat things at certain times of the year if you had no way to keep it protected or safe. Wow, winter. So, like certain seasons, you're just going to be vitamin deficient and not get the nutrition that you need. I didn't even know about that because I luckily have a fridge where we can keep food year round, regardless of the season. And I have food in there right now that I'll be eating in a couple hours. And I don't have to worry about keeping at the right temperature. I know it's safe in there. And it's in our a house and it's protected. Like if you went on camping, you know they have those containers like to keep food away from bears. You don't have to worry about animals getting to it. It's sealed in your house, kept cold at the perfect temperature, not having to worry about your food. That's just one less thing on your plate. Huh. Well, it's going to be on your plate. Wastewater treatment. We take the flush and forget system for granted, but this infrastructure is the single greatest contributor to the doubling of human life expectancy over the last 150 years, more so than almost any medical invention. I didn't know that. Let's ask about why is the wastewater treatment system one of the greatest contributing factors for doubling the human life expectancy? Why is that? Question mark. I didn't know that. I mean, I know it's great to be able to flush our toilets and to take a dump and forget about it, but what's so great about that? While we can credit modern medicine like antibiotics and surgery for our long lives, historians and epidemiologists generally agree that clean water and poop removal did the heavy lifting first. Before modern treatments, cities were essentially biological feedback loops where waste leaked into the same water sources used for drinking and bathing. No. Wastewater systems provided the first physical barrier that successfully blocked the transmission of cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. So basically, before this system was in place, you were at risk for drinking not just your own shit, but someone else's. Someone else's alcoholic diarrhea. Oh, God. And now, I know there's no poop in here. And I put electrolytes in it. And creatine. And it makes it tasty. And good for me. Wow. Moving on. Well, no, let's see. Between 1900 and 1940, U.S. life expectancy jumped 47 to 63 years. That nearly half of that total mortality reduction was duly sold to water filtration and chlorination, not new drugs or doctors. So people were falling off like, flies in the sky because of all the shit water they were drinking. That is incredible. My goodness. Oh, the biggest impact was on infant and child mortality, too. By removing the pathogens from the environment, wastewater treatment was responsible for roughly 3/4 of the decline in infant deaths at the turn of the century. My wife is due with our first child in 4 or 5 weeks. Three-quarters of the decline in infant deaths, which means 3/4 more of deaths were happening because of, babies getting bad water, untreated water. And that's something that I don't have to worry about. Man. It's very quickly how like this just immediately just makes you feel like the things you've been worrying about are just ridiculous, Okay. Wait, what? For every dollar spent on clean water and sanitation in the early 20th century, the estimated social return was 23-1 in terms of saved lives and economic productivity, a ratio rarely matched by even the most advanced. What do you mean, this estimated? What does that mean? The estimated social return was 23-1 in terms of saved lives and economic productivity, what does that exactly mean? Means that for every $1 a city or state invested in building sewers and water treatment, the community received $23 back in measurable economic value. What? The human capital retention. The return is primarily calculated by the value of a statistical life. When a worker doesn't die at age 25, they provide 40 more years of labor, taxes, and spending to the economy. So basically, cleaning up the shit water kept people from dying so they could work longer and contribute to the economy and to the workforce. Wow, that's crazy. All right. I mean, look at that. And that was just going down a rabbit hole of damn water treatment. And I got 2 toilets in there. And everybody else's toilet is doing the same thing, protecting us from drinking crap water. Damn, and I just realized I'm sure that there's places in the world today without running water like this. Are there still places in the world today that don't have this kind of clean water infrastructure? If so, where and how many people does it affect? Damn. Now that's sobering. That's a real problem. Still a work in progress. As of No. As of 2024 to 2026, approximately 2.1 to 2.2 billion people still lack access to safely managed drinking water. And in almost 3.4 billion, nearly 40% of the world live without safely managed sanitations, toilets that treat the waste. High cost paradox in places like Papua New Guinea, where 60% lack safe water. A day's worth of water can cost a low wage worker more than half of their daily income, meaning the poorest people often pay the most for the most basic necessity. Sub-Saharan Africa remains the most underserved region in countries like Chad and Central African Republic. Over 90% of the population lacks access to safely managed water, while Oceania and parts of South Asia also face critical infrastructure. 106 million people still collect drinking water directly from untreated surface sources like rivers, lakes, and irrigation canals, essentially living in the pre-1880s cholera era every single day. My intent was not to use other people's misfortune as a source of gratitude. I just truly was ignorant on that. I mean, maybe you all knew. I mean, I guess I knew to some degree that people didn't have access to clean water, but I just didn't know to the extent. 3 billion. I mean, there's how many people are in the world? How how many people in the world? 8 billion. So almost half, like a third. All right. Let's move on to a different topic here. Standardized time? What? Every town had its own noon? Before the 1880s, every town had its own noon based on the sun. The ability to sync a digital watch to a global atomic clock allows for everything from GPS navigation to the internet to function without data collisions? What does that mean? Can you expand on the standardized time and the chaos reducer and how every town had its own noon and how that affects the world today and what we benefit from that without even knowing about it? And just like that, there's just so many different things that we take for granted. I saw something about an LED light bulb. We'll have to check that out next. Standardized time was the first software update for the physical world. It replaced thousands of years of natural sun-based rhythms with a rigid artificial grid to prevent industrial age from literally crashing into itself. I'm wondering if this is good or not. I mean, a lot of modern science is talking about how, natural sun-based rhythms are correct. I mean, it says right here, and it's replaced it with a rigid artificial grid. So I don't know if this is something about gratitude, but we'll check it out nonetheless. The 300 noon problem. Before 1883, time was a local opinion. If the sun was directly over your town square, it was 12. This meant that when it was noon in New York, it was 12:12 in Boston, 11:48 in Philadelphia. In North America alone, there are over 300 distinct local times, creating a temporal mosaic that made scheduling anything, especially trains, impossible. So they're like, oh, the train's going to come at 1, but their version of 1 was different than where that train would come into to station in Kansas City, The day of two noons. November 18th, 1883, the railroads forced a day of two noons. At midday, clocks across the country were stopped or reset to a single standard. In some cities, the sun reaches peak. The clock hit 12, and then the minutes later, the clock was wound back to 12 again to align with the new railroad time. This wasn't about convenience, it was about survival when two trains shared a single track, but their engineers were set to two different local noons. Head-on collisions were common. Standardization was the first safety protocol for high-speed travel. Today, this chaos reducer is what allows the internet to function. Data packets aren't just sent, they are time-stamped. Yeah, I'm a software developer, and almost every record in our databases, they have to have a timestamp to it. You want to see when that thing is done. Yeah. Data packets aren't just sent, they are timestamped. Without a single synchronized global clock, UTC, your computer wouldn't know which version of a file is the latest, and financial markets would collapse because high-frequency trading relies on transactions executed millionths of a second. Your phone's GPS doesn't actually know where you are. It calculates your distance from satellites by measuring how long a signal takes to travel at the speed of light. So if the clocks on the satellites were off by even 1 microsecond, your GPS location would be wrong by 300 meters. Wow. So standardized atomic level time is the invisible tether holding our digital map of the world together. Well, for me, this doesn't feel as like a sense of gratitude the way the water or a fridge does, but nevertheless, I mean, it seems like everything that we do in this digital world, whether it be through our social media or news or just the economy as a whole, is held together through this atomic level of time. Damn. Let's see, what else? Infrastructure, average return, S&P. No, I don't care about that. Debt reduction tools? No. Wait, what? Oh, I went too far. Let's look at something else. Let's see. Okay, can you give us something else that can help us feel grateful, related to our bodies? Something that goes on right now that we don't know about but has to be happening, otherwise we'd be really sick. Give me a couple. This is an important one. This is a big one. Health is wealth. Health, something we take for granted. At this very second, your body is performing high stakes maintenance tasks that even if it paused for a few minutes, would result in catastrophic system failure. DNA editing on every single cell in your body suffers between 10,000 and 1 million DNA lesions per day due to metabolic heat and oxygen. An elite squad of enzymes is currently patrolling your double helix, snipping out the errors and sewing in corrections to prevent them from turning into cancer. What? Oh. Thank you, little enzymes. That is crazy. There's enzymes patrolling your double helix of every cell, snipping out the errors and sewing in corrections to prevent them from turning into cancer. I knew DNA would get damaged, but I didn't know that it was just like every cell was getting damaged no matter what. So I guess the thought is that if you currently do not cancer, which unfortunately many people have, and if you currently don't have it, the squad of enzymes has been doing a good enough job to keep that from happening. Wow. Your stomach contains hydrochloric acid strong enough to dissolve metal, but your stomach lining doesn't dissolve because it secretes a thick bicarbonate-rich mucus every minute. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Like, yeah, you have stomach acid, but how does it keep it from the stomach itself from dissolving? Because apparently it's constantly producing this bicarbonate-rich mucus every minute. Without this constant chemical shield, your stomach would literally digest itself in a matter of hours. Oh my God. Oh, thank you, bicarbonate-rich mucus. Like, what? That is crazy. And it's just, here we are. I've been talking for 27 minutes. And in that time, I just almost feel foolish. I feel foolish for having been so worked up and so angry at literally nothing. Nothing. Just bullshit. Just random thoughts of negativity and the irritants and the frustration over minor inconveniences. Letting that survival default mode network of the brain take over. And I was looking at a stat earlier, and it says that it takes about 5 positive or grateful thoughts to weigh to 1 negative, because our brain in the survival aspect, that's what it operates on. It skews towards the negative, so it takes 5 to weigh 1 negative. 5 positive, 5 grateful to weigh 1 negative, which is all the more important to focus and try to realistically practice gratitude and optimism. It doesn't take much. I mean, looking at some of these little facts like this, to me, is just so humbling and just beats it right out of me. Like, what? You have nothing to complain about, sir. I'm literally sitting here comfy in a chair, having fun, recording a goofy video because I enjoy it. And I have clean food to eat in a little while. And it's hot outside and I have air conditioning going on. This is a great life. It's amazing. And on the other end, I don't know your situation. You might have some hard things going on. But you have a phone. You have something to be able to watch and access and enjoy entertainment and learn about the world and different people's viewpoints. Man. One more, and to kind of, and you get to learn about this stuff. We get to learn at the click of a couple taps of a keyboard about some of the things that can make us grateful and appreciate things that most people in human history never knew what was going on. Most people that have ever lived never knew about this mucus that comes out of their stomach. I mean, there's obviously not much need to know it other than to practice gratitude, but I mean, it's incredible that we have this information available to us. Autophagy, I've heard of this. Your body is currently performing quality control by identifying broken proteins and damaged organelles. I didn't realize there's so much damaged shit going on. Wrapping them in membranes and melting them down into raw materials. This process is so vital for preventing neurodegeneration that the scientists who mapped it won the Nobel Prize in 2016. You're performing quality control checks by identifying broken proteins and damaged organelles. You remember that word organelle? Organelle. It was the... Oh, what was that shit? What was an organelle? It was the different things that make up a cell. Can you show us a picture of an animal cell and the different organelles in it? I could easily go to Google, but I don't know. I'm going to get into the habit of this. This stuff. Yeah. Took me to a site anyway. Anyway, yeah, all the different stuff, the ribosomes, the endoplasmic reticulum, I remember that. Microtubules, this is giving me the shivers. But yeah, all these things, processes going on in each cell at any time. And we have, how many cells do we have? Let me ask, how many cells does the human body have on average? Is it billions? Yeah, I think it's billions. 37 trillion. All right. Wow. 37 trillion cells all doing their job. You don't have to check where your feet are to know. Let's look. We're moving on to something else. This is insane. We got two more. You don't have to check where your feet are to know where they are. Your brain's processes millions of signals from proprioceptors in your muscles every second, allowing you to move through space without having to consciously calculate the position of every limb. Huh. You don't have to check where your feet are to know where they are. Yeah, they're just there. My hand is just here. Apparently, it's processing millions of signals to know where everything is in space at all times. And so this is what that means. If these millions of signals weren't firing every second, I wouldn't know where I am, I guess. You know? That's crazy. I just don't know what to say anymore. Last one. While your heart pumps blood, your lymphatic system has no pump of its own. It relies on your tiny muscle twitches to move fluid through your body, filtering out toxins and debris that would otherwise cause your tissues to swell and become toxic in a backup of biological waste. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's just... I can go down a rabbit hole of just... There's so many things happening right now at any moment that we have to be grateful for. Whether it be the repairing of your cells or down to your DNA within each cell. All these repairs and things going on at every second. If it weren't, we would be sick very quickly. And you not being sick, or at least this kind of sick, shows that those processes are working well. And maybe you have access to clean drinking water. And we're able to communicate and have fun on the internet and to watch videos and do things because of the atomic clock system. And we have access to healthcare and electricity. And yeah, I will be honest, in just this little bit of time, I feel much better. And it doesn't take much. It really doesn't. To tap into in remembering the things that you already have and thinking about what it's like to not have them or to think of that thing not working. And what would it be like to not have that thing? can make a huge difference in your perception, in your capacity for gratitude and appreciation. I forget who said it, but it was something like, don't when you focus on, try not to focus on what you don't have, or don't want things that you don't have. Want the things that you already have. And changing that lens, that attention spotlight from the things that you lack and the things that are negative towards the things that you already have, that you already possess, that you'd be upset or devastated if that were not the case. And if you do that repeatedly, it gets easier. And that's another blessing, is that we have that thing called neuroplasticity and our ability to change our brains. It's said in the research that gratitude is like resistance training for your brain. And your brain literally over time can change structurally and make you tap into more positive states easily when done over time. The opposite is also true. Letting the default mode network and just letting that kind of survival brain take over without doing any interventions, for most folks who are not, completely skewed to the positive side, because I'm definitely not. If you're not naturally skewed to the positive side, you tend to have negative habits. You tend to naturally go negative, and then your whole world and life lens becomes shaded and colored with that view, and then your life can feel worse than it actually is. And it is all about perception. Your ability to choose and to perceive how you view the world around you, but most importantly, your internal world. And that's what I love about these mental health practices, is because you can change how you feel about your own life. I mean, how powerful is that? To spend 20 minutes of doing, I'm getting emotional, I'm getting excited, just to spend 20 minutes of looking at things that I already have, and it changes how I see my life. And I feel grateful, because if I know if any of those things weren't happening, I would have real problems. So we have to be careful and monitor, be alert, be aware, recognize the pseudo problems, the fake kind of irritations in the, oh, he said this, and I'm, and because our mind loves to create them. Our mind loves to create the superfluous shit that doesn't really matter, and blows them up. And it can make a habit of that. It can make a habit of the small things seeming big. And then when something big, negative, or something actually bad happens in our lives, because they will, when that actually comes, well, this now seems minuscule in comparison, because it actually was the entire time. So in that way, we can save ourselves a lot of headache and a lot of unnecessary suffering by practicing gratitude now. And I know we didn't see it in this research session, but I know from past research that gratitude also builds resilience and helps your ability to get through actual hard times when you have that kind of mental training and mental wiring in place. So not only does gratitude make you feel better now, it can help you get through the hard times now or later. So it's always a great time to practice gratitude. So to wrap this up, I'm grateful for this session. I'm grateful for the ability to practice gratitude, to remind myself of the mind's tendencies to wander, to meander around the bullshit that doesn't matter, and to come back to what does. Thank you. Thank you.